It's extremely easy to hate billionaires. If most of us had that kind of money, we would shut up, stay off social media, and live life like it was a video game. But Elon Musk wasn't like other billionaires. He had the world convinced that he was a misunderstood genius. And despite him having inconceivable goals like his technology saving lives and even moving the human race to another planet, he seemed like just a chill guy. And because of that, he was almost universally liked by people on both sides of the political spectrum. But not anymore. The cracks in the facade have been revealed, and the controlled narrative surrounding Elon's life and career have been dismantled. Elon's lies have gotten so out of control that even his own fan base is starting to reject him. And in today's video, we will discuss why some people are still hanging on to the idea that he is a genius with an honorable mission to save the human race, and why others refuse to ignore the obvious warning signs of giving more power to the richest man in the world. There has been much debate about the severity of Elon Musk's traumatic childhood. Some believe he is twisting the narrative for sympathy, whereas others see him as a man whose behavior today is the direct result of his father's brutal parenting style. The narrative that has been broadly accepted is that Elon grew up poor, which is not true, but that doesn't mean he automatically had an easy life. Elon's parents, Errol and May, were mostly separated just 9 months after Elon was born. Errol was a successful engineer and May was an aspiring supermodel, and the two busy parents left young Elon home with his two siblings, Kimball and Tosca Musk. "I didn't really have a primary nanny or anything," Musk recalls. "I just had a housekeeper who was there to make sure I didn't break anything. She wasn't like watching me. I was off making explosives and reading books and building rockets and doing things that could have gotten me killed. I'm shocked that I have all my fingers. I was raised by books, and then my parents." Elon was surprisingly proactive for a child, studying programming, reading science fiction, and teaching himself to code his first video game at the age of 12. And as if that didn't make him unlike most 12-year-olds, he was also trying to discover the meaning of life.
When I was, about 11 or 12 years old, I had somewhat of an existential crisis because there just didn't seem to be any meaning in the world. No meaning to life. I actually tried to read all the religious texts. Obviously read the Bible. I read the Quran, the Torah, a bit on the Hindu side. Just trying to understand all these things. But then I read Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is really a book on philosophy disguised as humor. The point that Adams tries to make there is that we don't actually know all the answers, obviously.
Yeah.
In fact, we don't even know what the right questions are to ask. The thing that's going to take a computer far more powerful than Earth is to understand what question to ask.
Yeah, right.
That's simply the wrong question.
So was that the key realization, that question?
Yeah, that was a fundamental turning point, yeah.
And just like that, Elon's life philosophy was set in stone. Stay curious, keep learning, keep asking questions, keep solving problems, and keep progressing towards finding the answers or the questions of the meaning of life. But it wasn't smooth sailing from there. Growing up in South Africa, violence was all around him, and Elon was about to experience some harsh life lessons at a young age. But real quick, have you ever Googled your name and seen yourself on one of those strange sites that has too much information about you? Feels pretty weird. If you've ever wondered how scammers get your phone number or why your inbox is flooded with spam, this is why. There are data broker companies that sell your data without your consent and make billions doing it. They're legally required to remove your info if you ask, but they make the process difficult and confusing on purpose. That's where today's sponsor, Aura, comes in. They take care of the hard part and automatically remove your info from these sites. I use Aura to keep myself and my loved ones safe from data brokers and other sketchy online threats. You may already have a digital security tool, but Aura is so much more. Aura will alert you if your personal info is found on the dark web, gives you real-time fraud alerts with 24/7 monitoring, gives you access to VPN, antivirus, a password manager, and more. If anything does happen, Aura includes $5 million in identity theft insurance protection, and they have US fraud experts ready to help. Try Aura free for 14 days at aura.com/PatrickCC. In those 2 weeks, you'll discover where your data is being exposed and sold. I'm not leaving myself vulnerable, and you shouldn't either. Elon Musk sent Elon to a South African survival camp because he knew his child needed to be tough to survive. The kids were given small rations of food and water and encouraged to physically fight for resources. Musk and his younger brother claim that every few years, someone would actually end up dead, and counselors would use these stories as warnings. Don't be stupid like that dumb who died last year, they would say. Don't be the weak, dumb Elon was essentially a frail nerd who was socially awkward and unable to defend himself, which made him a target. After one altercation at school, he was hunted down by bullies and nearly beaten to death.
I was sitting next to Elon, and these guys come up to him, 4 or 5 guys, and they just start him senseless with their fists. There's nothing I can do to help. I just have to sit and watch this. And they had the intention to death. It was just awful. It was just the most awful thing to witness. My brother's face was unrecognizable.
His father didn't show him any affection after this brutal beating. Instead, Errol made Elon stand in front of him for hours while he called him an idiot and said he was worthless. Elon's father justifies this cruel punishment because he revealed that Elon was actually the one who started the fight. The boy had just lost his father to suicide, and Elon had called him stupid. Errol says, Elon had this tendency to call people stupid. How could I possibly blame that child? Some see Elon as a victim of cruel bullies. Some took this quote from his father and thought that Elon lied to the media for all these years and that he was in fact the bully, just getting some much due retaliation. Then again, Elon's father may not be the most trustworthy source either. Would you trust a man who raised a stepdaughter since she was 4 years old and then had 2 children with her when he was in his 70s? Elon's first wife Justine put it this way: with a childhood like his in South Africa, I think you have to shut yourself down emotionally in some ways. If your father is always calling you a moron and idiot, maybe the only response is to turn off anything inside that would have opened up an emotional dimension that he didn't have the tools to deal with. He learned to shut down fear. If you turn off fear, then maybe you have to turn off other things, like joy or empathy. Now, turning off fear, joy, and empathy was key to becoming the business savant that he is. However, his traumatic childhood has made his fans see the man worth $389 billion as relatable. And it's because of these half-truths that have allowed Elon to develop arguably the best reputation of any billionaire in history. Because if the full truth was revealed, like maybe when it comes to his business practices, then he may not be seen as the otherworldly genius many believe that he is. Since Elon's mother was originally born in Canada, he was able to escape the harsh environment of South Africa to attend college. After 2 years, he transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, where he studied until 1995. Elon became interested in the world of entrepreneurship in college, starting small businesses to help pay for tuition. Since Silicon Valley was the home of innovation for anyone pursuing a career in tech, after graduation, Elon and his brother Kimball set off to California to make their business dreams a reality.
In starting the company, I had nothing. I had no income source. We found that an office was actually cheaper than an apartment in Silicon Valley. So we got this dinky little office that had a leaky roof. It was just the nastiest place you can imagine. And I lived in it too and showered at the YMCA. This lasted for about 3 or 4 months. And the reason we chose this office, in addition to it being really cheap, was that there was an internet service provider on the floor below. So we were able to get really cheap internet access by drilling a hole in the floor and connecting to their server directly.
Elon was building the right company at the right time, as any tech company with a decent idea was getting bought out for astronomical prices. In 1999, Musk and his brother sold an online city guide called Zip2 to a company called Compaq for $307 million. And with $22 million in his pocket from the sale, Elon could have easily retired. But $22 million was chump change in that industry, so he thought bigger. He used all of his money to create an online banking business called X.com, an all-in-one banking company where everything financial could be in one place. But this project was a little too big for Elon to achieve on his own, and so he decided to merge with a company right next door to his office called PayPal. Apparently, his behavior at the time was so uncontrollable and erratic that people in the PayPal office despised him. He was rumored to have challenged the CTO to an arm wrestling match and was removed as the CEO after people started to jump ship because he was seen as a liability. One of his business partners described the inability to take Elon seriously. There's an irony in everything he does. He operates on an irony setting that goes up to 11, but never goes below 4. Despite tension in the office, they were all about to become filthy rich. In 2002, PayPal was acquired by eBay for $1.5 billion in stock, of which Musk, the largest shareholder with 11.72% of shares, received $175 million. And instead of slowing down, he He chose to live up to the stories he read in science fiction novels as a kid, becoming the face of two innovative companies: Tesla, an electric vehicle business, and SpaceX, a space transportation and aerospace manufacturing company with a primary mission to colonize the planet Mars. Elon Musk invested $100 million of his PayPal money into SpaceX, and his business plan will shock you. In the late 80s, the Bush administration asked NASA to estimate how much it would cost to get to Mars. They replied with a price tag of $500 billion, and the government said, okay, we're never going to Mars. But Elon liked the idea of going to Mars, so he had to think outside the box.
So then that got totally shelved, and it was like you were not allowed to talk about any kind of crewed mission to Mars at NASA. Anyway, but I thought, well, if I could do something that would galvanize public interest, and then that public interest would translate to additional appropriations for NASA and increase their budget, then maybe they could do it. The United States, maybe more than any other country, is a distillation of the human spirit of exploration. It's really fundamental to psyche. So if people think there's a way, I think it would actually get a lot of support.
Although this may seem small, it's actually a huge insight from Musk. He basically admitted that his whole business plan was to launch a marketing campaign to the general public. If he could make the ordinary person interested in Mars, and the hype was big enough, then NASA, aka the US government, will start funding companies who are attempting to explore the planet. And his plan worked, but barely. At first, Elon was funding everything himself. He took 3 trips to Russia to negotiate pricing for 2 rockets owned by the Russian government. They demanded $8 million, and Elon refused to pay that price.
Is there some way to affect the cost of space transport? Got together with a group of people over a series of Saturdays just to try to understand, is there something fundamentally super expensive about rockets, or can the cost be substantially improved? I couldn't see any fundamental obstacle to improving the cost of rockets, so that's when I started SpaceX.
For the next few years, Elon exhausted all of his media time trying to convince the world that exploring space will be super cool and interesting.
And then I think you've got space tourism or space adventure. That, I think, is likely to be the biggest driver. And then long term, assuming that we fulfill the president's vision and we establish a moon base and then go on and establish a Mars base, supplying those bases is a huge, huge business.
People were definitely interested in the idea that one day there will be personalized space travel or tourism. However, when they saw SpaceX rockets plummeting to Earth and exploding from a crash landing, they were unsure of Elon's progress. After multiple rocket failures and 5 years straight of just burning Elon's personal money, SpaceX was nearly bankrupt. His other company, Tesla, was also on the brink of collapse. Elon Musk is not one of the founders of Tesla. The company was founded in July of 2003 by engineers Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. But Elon was a fan, making a personal investment of $6.5 million and joining as chairman of the board in 2004. Tensions with the original founders eventually led to Eberhard's departure, and even though he is still a stockholder to this day, he doesn't seem too fond of Elon.
Well, I mean, this is one of the things that I found kind of fascinating about him, is that he's actually accomplished some amazing things in his own right.
He's totally amazing.
Yeah, SpaceX is amazing, and he's done some interesting things with Tesla for sure. I'm not sure why he has to also say that he was a founder when he wasn't. I don't understand that.
By 2008, Elon took over as CEO during the financial crisis that nearly bankrupted the company. The first car release was the 2008 Tesla Roadster, and while it wasn't perfect, it was one of the first electric cars that appealed to both environmentalists and people unwilling to accept the style of the Toyota Prius. In this way, Tesla was the first electric vehicle company to show people on both sides of the aisle that you could care for the environment and look cool at the same time. Elon wanted to assure to the customer that as long as we consistently move forward technologically, then we were on the right path to saving the planet.
The reason I funded Tesla is because I think it's very important that we accelerate the adoption of electric vehicles. And it was not with the idea of just creating a sports car that's very expensive, because that doesn't really change the world. That's not going to make a dent on our energy usage. But the sports car is really just an entry point to the marketplace. And from the sports car, we'll go to Model 2, Model 3. And in each case, with each successive model, we'll increase the production volume and decrease the price.
Elon tried to do as much press as he could to sell his $180,000 electric sports car to rich people, convincing them that it would ultimately lead to changing the world. And one day, electric cars would be an affordable reality for the average American. But Tesla was only able to sell 100 units, and the company could not survive.
2008 was brutal. We had the 3rd consecutive failure
of the Falcon 1 rocket for SpaceX. Tesla almost went bankrupt. We closed our financing round 6 p.m. Christmas Eve, 2008. It was the last hour of the last day that it was possible. We would have gone bankrupt 2 days after Christmas otherwise. And I got divorced. That was like rough, man.
At his lowest moment, facing imminent failure, the US government swooped in and saved both of his companies. NASA awarded SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. For Tesla, Musk secured a $40 million loan just before Christmas Eve, as well as a $50 million investment from Daimler. But the big bailout for Tesla was when they were granted $465 million in low-interest loans from the US Department of Energy to accelerate the production of affordable, fuel-efficient electric vehicles. After back-to-back bailouts, Elon could finally take a breath and know that his companies will be okay for a little while. But if he didn't keep everyone invested in his vision, then he would be needing another government payday soon. He started to set unimaginable goals with unrealistic timelines. Like in 2011, he promised to put a man on Mars in 10 years. This is how he described what Teslas could do for you in 2014. Imagine having your car check your calendar in the morning, calculate travel time to your first appointment based on real-time traffic data, automatically open the garage door with HomeLink, carefully back out of a tight garage, and pull up to your door ready for your commute. He wasn't necessarily wrong about Teslas being able to one day accomplish these things, he just set an unrealistic timeline. Elon also decided to invest in his personal brand and become a celebrity. Unlike Mark Zuckerberg, who tried to rebrand overnight after his reputation fell flat on its face, Musk slowly transitioned to the modern CEO. He ditched the dusty brown suits of the early 2000s and opted for more form-fitting black suits. He received countless hair transplants and became friendly with the camera. Tesla continued to lose money most quarters as they scaled production and built infrastructure, but he was able to prove to the US consumer that his EVs will change our future. In 2016, Tesla collected over 400,000 reservations for the Model 3, each with a $1,000 deposit, generating over $400 million in cash flow without delivering a single unit. Year over year, both of Elon's companies secured around $1 billion in federal contracts, loans, subsidies, and tax credits. But greatness does take time, and as you can imagine, the type of innovation Elon is going for is not going to be cheap, which is why US citizens on both sides of the political spectrum were more than happy to know that their tax dollars were helping Elon make cheaper electric cars and keep the US in the space race.
People are mistaken when they think that technology just automatically improves. It does not automatically improve. It only improves if a lot of people work very hard to make it better, and actually it will by itself degrade. You look at great civilizations like ancient Egypt, and they were able to make the pyramids, and they forgot how to do that. And the Romans, they built these incredible aqueducts. They forgot how to do it.
Elon Musk launched his personal Tesla Roadster into space aboard the maiden flight of SpaceX's rocket as a test payload. The stunt demonstrated the rocket's power and was a genius marketing stunt that combined his two brilliant innovations. By this point, Elon Musk had zero haters. He went on talk shows, PR tours, and hung out with the most famous people in Hollywood. He painted a picture of life unimaginable before, and people were buying into it. Tesla cars would be able to drive themselves, there will be an underground transportation exclusively for Teslas, we would have robots to assist around our homes, communicate telepathically through chips installed into our brains called Neuralink, and ultimately we will be a part of an interplanetary utopia in the next century. He was a certified tech celebrity, and people were all in on his vision for the future. But as silly as it sounds, the moment that sent Elon Musk to superstardom was his 2018 appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast, when he shared a little bit of that devil's lettuce while wearing an Occupy Mars t-shirt. This moment was astronomically viral, with every news publication, Silicon Valley executive, and 4chan user talking about genius Elon Musk smoking weed. This was the moment people really started looking at Musk like he was one of the guys, a billionaire unlike other billionaires. Tesla stock took a minor hit after the JRE episode, but it rebounded almost immediately because Musk's public approval was at an all-time high. And it was from here that it became very apparent that Elon loved the attention. He loved the spotlight. He loved the praise. He loved being a celebrity. He also needed the people's love so he can keep experimenting in space on the government's dime. And this would start his journey of going to ridiculous measures to maintain public approval.
You spent 2 years shadowing him. What did you learn that we didn't already know about Elon Musk?
Well, there's certainly multiple Elon Musk, multiple personalities, whether it's the hardcore engineering mode that you know so well, where he can figure out how to do a battery cell, or more importantly, figure out how to do steps on an assembly line that will make the battery cell. But also there's almost a demon mode of Elon Musk, where he turns really dark. And that can be very problematic, especially when it came to acquiring Twitter, which I think involves more emotional intelligence.
Elon Musk made his first tweet in 2010 saying, "Please ignore prior tweets, as that was someone pretending to be me. This is actually me." And at the start, it was primarily just him trolling and sharing the latest about Tesla and SpaceX. He'd post about the most recent launch or encourage people to invest in Doge, a meme coin that people invest in for laughs. While this might have seemed innocent at the time, this was actually a big problem for someone with his personality type. And it was made worse when you consider the sort of Twitter culture as a whole. People think that society's loss of sanity on Twitter happened in recent years. Racial divide, political fights, and slurs are a part of the daily experience. But the truth is, Twitter has always been a chaotic place. There are hundreds of millions of people constantly posting about what is going on in their head at any given time. What could possibly go wrong? Twitter is basically other social media platforms on steroids. If you want to troll, all you have to do is quote the tweet with an insult and make the post your own. If you want to preach, all you have to do is start a thread. And if you're famous enough, growing a cult following and punishing your enemies is only a few clicks away. And Elon Musk was about to learn this one tweet at a time, starting with when he falsely accused a rescue diver of abusing minors. In 2018, a youth soccer team and their coach were trapped in a flooded cave in Thailand for 18 days.
The missing party, what we can now refer to as the miraculously lucky 13, the Wild Boars football team plus their young coach. They went missing after match practice. They'd explored this particular cave before, but were apparently trapped by a sudden monsoon flood.
To make matters worse, the rising water levels were unpredictable. Specialists made it known to the public that if the boys and their coach weren't saved soon, there was a possibility that they'd drown regardless. As the crisis escalated, 110 Navy SEALs were deployed to find a rescue method. Jessica Tate, the public affairs officer of the US Air Force, said, "This is a Thai-led multinational rescue operation, and what's fantastic is that you see the US here, the Australians, the Chinese, the British divers obviously. It shows that when militaries train together, it's for this. It's for the real world." And given the tales of heroism coming from the cave story on Twitter, Elon Musk couldn't help but get in on the action. While the team of professionals considered scuba diving to navigate the caves, Musk stayed on brand, claiming that after feedback from Thailand, the best course of action would be to build kid-sized submarines out of rocket parts to get the boys out. But the logistics of this mini sub operation seemed more like a fantasy than an actual plan, and a number of teammates believed that it only harmed actual attempts to free the flood victims. And this is when a rescue diver named Vern Unsworth came out and rejected the idea completely, telling Elon to shove his plan up where it hurts.
What your thoughts on Elon Musk's idea was?
And stick his submarine where it hurts. Just had absolutely no chance of working. He had no conception of what the cave passage was like. The submarine, I believe, was about 5'6" long, rigid, so it wouldn't have gone round corners or round any obstacles. It wouldn't have made the first 50 meters into the cave from the dive start point. Just a PR stunt.
He went into the cave on Tuesday
and was asked to leave very quickly. And so he should have been.
Now, most people sided with Musk at the beginning, after Unsworth's insults were made public. After all, Elon was a genius inventor who simply wanted to help. He may not have had a good plan or a realistic plan, but they felt that anyone dumping resources that quickly to save some lives was honorable. However, Unsworth attacked Musk's ego, and he soon discovered Elon's fragility firsthand. Musk didn't seem to care that Unsworth was a rescue diver and a hero. He cared that his image was attacked, and that was enough for Musk to really weaponize Twitter for the first time. Never saw this British expat guy who lives in Thailand, sus, at any point when we were in the caves. Only people in sight were the Thai, Navy, and Army guys, who were great. Thai Navy SEALs escorted us in, total opposite of wanting us to leave. Water level was actually very low and still not flowing. You could literally have swum to Cave 5 with no gear, which is obviously how the kids got in. If not true, then I challenged this dude to show the final rescue video. Huge credit to Pump and Generator team. Unsung heroes here. You know what? Don't bother showing the video. We will make one of the mini sub pods going all the way down to Cave 5 no problemo. Sorry, pedo guy, you really did ask for it. What should have been a heartwarming story about millions praying for a young soccer team's survival turned into Musk's first real fight on the world stage. To make matters worse, Unsworth couldn't compete with Elon's cult of personality. To save his reputation, Unsworth took Elon Musk to court for $190 million for defamation, claiming it harmed his personal relationships and career. But Elon weaponized his unlimited supply of money to make sure that he won the case. He started by saying that his tweet was a joke that was badly received, therefore deleted with an apology and then responsive tweets to move on from the matter. He then said at the time that he thought Unsworth was just some random creepy guy who was unrelated to the rescue. After a short apology from Musk in court, Unsworth's lawyer stayed on message, citing another now deleted tweet that the billionaire sent to his followers saying, "Bet ya a signed dollar it's true." He also cited an email exchange that Mr. Musk had with a BuzzFeed reporter who contacted him for comment on the threat of legal action, where the entrepreneur said, "Stop defending child rapists." But in court, Musk claimed that his pedo insult was just slang from South Africa, something that has yet to be verified. It sounds a lot more like a bully at school trying to justify his actions in the principal's office. But justice is only justice when money isn't involved, and Elon won the case almost instantly.
Vernon went toe-to-toe with a billionaire bully. Not many people have the courage to do that. He put unlimited resources into this case. We did the best we can. We worked night and day for Vernon. We believe Vernon. We believe in his cause. He is properly a hero, and he has been recognized as such.
I've taken it on the chin. I just have to get on with life.
Elon didn't know it at the time, but this was the first shift in his public reputation. Something about his immature behavior and ability to just throw out false allegations didn't sit right with people outside of his fan base. But just as things started to slip away, Elon shared something deeply personal to the public. He told everyone that he had undiagnosed Asperger's when he was brought on to host SNL.
I'm actually making history tonight as the first person with Asperger's to host SNL.
For a lot of people, Elon's confession made perfect sense. Asperger's is a part of the autism spectrum disorder, and signs of Asperger's syndrome include repetitive behaviors, sensory sensitivity, social difficulties, poor fine motor skills, and sometimes a lack of close friendships, all of which Elon seems to struggle with. But looking back, the timing of all of this seemed kind of suspicious to people. It is true that Elon's mannerisms and behavior fit the description, but his behavior made some people begin to wonder if this was a genuine reveal or another way to clean up his public image. Regardless, it looked like Elon learned a lesson about social media and bending the truth. Twitter gave people the freedom to avoid responsibility. If he wanted to be a troll or a bully, he could do it behind the safety of his keyboard, which is what got him in one of the cringiest online battles with Mark Zuckerberg and lied his way out of getting his ass beat. The relationship between Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg first took a serious turn when SpaceX failed to launch Zuckerberg's satellite into space. The satellite was meant to give internet access to developing nations, but it instead blew up on the launch pad. In a Facebook post at the time, Zuckerberg said he was deeply disappointed to hear that SpaceX's launch failure destroyed our satellite, and Musk initially seemed to take it in stride. He responded to the incident on Twitter with, "Yeah, my fault for being an idiot. We did give them a free launch to make up for it, and I think they had some insurance." But Elon's ego was clearly damaged by the failure. Even though he acted somewhat professionally in this instance, every response to Zuckerberg's claims going forward would show how wounded he actually was. In 2017, 2017, Zuckerberg expressed optimism about the future of AI and said he wasn't really fond of people who are naysayers and tried to drum up these doomsday scenarios. Elon then bashed Zuckerberg, saying, "I've talked to Mark about this. His understanding of the subject is limited," insulting his intelligence. As if it couldn't get worse, Musk publicly quit Facebook a year later following the #delete Facebook trend. Then he posted, "What's Facebook?" while proceeding to promise to remove SpaceX from the platform as well. And on the surface, all of these decisions were seen as perfectly reasonable. Facebook had a growing reputation for stealing data, and Zuckerberg was, and is, notorious for stealing people's information and selling it to the highest bidder. However, most people at the time did not see that Elon's anti-Zuckerberg campaign was actually a part of a master plan. He didn't just troll Zuckerberg for the fun of it like everyone else. He saw him as future competition. The billionaire battle escalated when Zuckerberg released Threads, a platform that basically copied the Twitter model in every way. When reacting to the news, Elon tweeted, "I'm sure Earth can't wait to be exclusively under Zuck's thumb with no other options. At least it'll be sane." Was worried there for a moment, to which someone replied, "Better be careful, Elon. I heard he does the jujitsu now." And then Elon replied, "I'm up for a cage match if he is, lol." Understanding Musk's fragile ego, Zuckerberg began roasting Elon by posting an Instagram story with the caption, "Send me your location," referring to the Habib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor saga, as well as posting the Spider-Man meme hinting at the Threads vs Twitter battle. And the public interest was explosive. Musk suggested that the fight take place in the Vegas Octagon, and people thought that they'd get a chance to see two middle-aged billionaires fight with their actual fists. And while Mark isn't the greatest fighter on the planet, he has spent a considerable amount of his free time training with MMA professionals in the past few years. Also, Zuck was now winning competitive matches, and even Musk's most dedicated fanboys understood that he wasn't in the best shape of his life. Elon has claimed that over the years he trained in several different martial arts, but he was weaker now, and in no way capable of taking on Zuckerberg in a cage match. Regardless, Elon continued trolling Zuckerberg on Twitter, calling him a cuck and challenged him to a literal measuring contest. And while initially this all seemed harmless and entertaining, it started to get desperate and kind of sad. People started looking at this for what it was: two aging rich nerds with fragile egos on a quest to convince everyone else that they were manly. And just when it looked like things couldn't get any more painful, Elon pulled out of the fight with just as many excuses as he had with the Unsworth trial. As soon as they agreed on the Vegas venue, Musk turned around and said they should fight in the Coliseum. He just kept changing plans whenever the fight was about to take place.
He accused me of not being serious, and I said, "Look, listen. At the end of the day, if I'll fight you any place, anywhere, under any rules." He said, "Name the place." I'm like, I'm happy to fight him in a house, on a mouse, with a louse. We'd like go full Dr. Seuss here.
Now, how much time?
I'm way bigger than him. This is unfair.
I know you.
I don't think you should fight me
because you're so much bigger than him.
Yeah, I'm like 50% heavier than him.
Yeah.
I'll just use I've got my patented walrus move. I just lie on him. Well, you know, like walrus doesn't need martial arts training.
Right.
Because it's really big. You don't want to go wrestling a walrus.
Right.
Because he's going to roll on you.
Have you ever rolled with someone who's much smaller than you that does jiu-jitsu?
Yes.
Lex. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did 10 years of martial arts.
Joe's wondering, should I just let this whole "I'm bigger than him" thing slide? This is the first time I've seen Joe not call someone out on their BS related to their martial arts abilities. At this point, Joe glazing Musk couldn't even prevent people from seeing the truth. All of his excuses for avoiding the fight were blatant lies, and weaponizing Twitter wasn't helping him either. While Elon made countless efforts to change his public image over the years, he also started to change his value system, transforming from a balanced tech bro into a die-hard patriot with a political message to save the human race. When Elon first became popular, he never seemed like he had picked a side when it came to politics. He donated to the Republican Bush-Cheney campaign in 2003, but then funded Democratic nominee John Kerry the following year. Liking President Barack Obama's environmental stance, he donated over $100,000 to him and his programs between 2007 and 2011, and in an interview with The Atlantic in 2014, he described himself as being half Republican and half Democrat. Even as Redditors started to turn on him because of his focus on Twitter, Musk would double down on the fact that he was a moderate, and that he was a humanitarian that felt everything he was doing was for the betterment of society as a whole. But after he bought Twitter, he started receiving an enormous tremendous amount of criticism from the left, Musk once again started to get reactive. He and many others in the country felt like progressives had taken their message a bit too far, censoring their enemies and pushing an agenda that would be enforced whether people liked it or not. And by 2022, Elon's stance had completely changed. He became more and more vocal about the rights of working class Americans and felt that he was one of the only people with extreme wealth who saw the world for what it really was. In the past, I voted Democrat because they were, mostly, the kindness party, but they have become the party of division and hate, so I can no longer support them and will vote Republican. And in carrying that set of beliefs, Elon Musk's Twitter takeover was more extreme than ever before. Starlink has been told by some governments to block Russian news sources. We will not do so unless at gunpoint. Sorry to be a free speech absolutist. By free speech, I simply mean that which matches the law. I am against censorship that goes far beyond the law. If people want less free speech, they will ask government to pass laws to that effect. Therefore, going beyond the law is contrary to the will of the people. As promised, this platform will fight for your freedom to speak. We expect many such battles in the future. Freedom of speech is the bedrock of democracy. Without it, America ends. Musk felt so passionate about protecting free speech online that $44 billion for the purchase of Twitter was worth it. So now he could control and deem what free speech is. He started by firing about 6,000 employees, which was 80% of the workforce. Then he restored banned accounts and publicized political free speech promises. But behind the scenes, Musk was allegedly banning self-proclaimed anti-fascist journalists. He claimed they were crazy stalkers and a danger to society. He also considered himself a champion for comedy, saying really cringy things like legalize comedy because comedians were being canceled, aka criticized for their jokes. Then again, he reportedly began removing posts of a Dave Chappelle show at the Chase Center where he was basically booed off stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for the richest man in the world. Cheers and booze, I see.
In response to the boos, Elon Musk tweeted, "The woke mind virus is either defeated or nothing else matters." It started to look like Musk's hard beliefs only applied when they suited him, and now that he owned Twitter, he was going to make sure that he and his fans got center stage. He wanted more positive attention from the public than ever before, even if it was just an illusion. According to inside sources, Musk was visibly disturbed when he saw the ex-president Joe Biden got more views than him on a Super Bowl post. In response, Musk reportedly hired 80 engineers to work around the clock to re-engineer the algorithm to favor his tweets over anyone else's. And today, it's insanely noticeable. Twitter has essentially become a Musk diary filled with memes and his personal thoughts. He is often telling X users that you are the media now, but it's starting to seem like he is the media now. He also still had the world's biggest podcast absolutely glazing him.
Thank you so much for buying Twitter. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm not exaggerating when I think you changed the course of history. You made a fork in the road. We were headed down a path of censorship and of control of narratives that is unprecedented.
Now, many felt that Elon's behavior during the build-up to the 2024 election was downright embarrassing, but his fans felt that he was the only person with power willing to stand up to the censorship and the corrosion of traditional values. And then, after Donald Trump won the presidential election, Elon felt he had helped successfully put the right man in office, and he had a particularly interesting way of expressing his love for the American people.
Thank you. My heart goes out to you.
Can't even perform a Nazi salute without being called a Nazi these days. Shaking my head. I can think of like 15 different gestures to show my appreciation to a crowd, and none of them look remotely like that. Rikest man in the world. Wait, did I spell that right? Again, Musk's behavior on the campaign trail was cringy, embarrassing, and straight up sad for a billionaire. But the salute? This one was hard to defend, even for his supporters. His remaining fanboys tried all sorts of things to excuse his behavior, behavior, like showing images of other political figures holding up their hands or claiming that this was some sort of autistic spasm. Even Joe Rogan came to his defense.
We were talking about the Elon gaffe, where he's like, my heart goes out to you.
So
like, hey,
silly.
Don't do that, though.
That's the perfect example. If you believe he's a Nazi,
Right.
you're going to see him do a silly hand gesture and see that as that.
Well, he's saying my heart goes
Right,
out to
to
you.
you.
But that is how the Nazis did it.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan has completely sold out. Now, some people believe that Elon doing this salute was him just openly admitting that he's a white supremacist. Some people believe that he is an evil billionaire. Others believe that he was just joking and this is a troll. But what we can all agree on is that this was a Nazi salute. And from here on out, the lies and scandals continued to stack up. The most embarrassing one is the billionaire pretending to be a top 20 ranked player in Diablo 4, which is a video game that takes players into a world where the forces of evil are led by a demon named Lilith, where your objective is to continuously battle progressively harder and harder opponents. And while that sounds like every video game imaginable, Diablo 4's difficulty is legendary in the world of action role-playing. Not everyone is capable of getting into it because of how complex it gets after each phase.
The top 20 and even the top 100 is like totally dominated by China.
So are you in the top 20 in the world or
Yeah.
top 20? Wow, in Diablo.
Yeah.
People were suspicious how Musk could lead the US's space race, build fully self-driving automobiles, run an entirely new government agency appointed by President Trump, tweet every hour of the day, and still find time to be a top 20 ranked player in a video game that other elite players dedicate their lives to. If Musk actually earned his position in the top 20 for Diablo, it would either mean A, he never goes to work and has a robot to replace him, or B, he is straight up lying. YouTuber Quinn69TV deep dove into this subject and came to the conclusion that Elon likely pays people to play the game for him on his account, essentially boosting his ranking to the world top 20 while Elon is justifiably busy running his businesses and tweeting his favorite memes.
So right away we see Elon zone into his hideout, which is the area you do in-game content from. And he opens up his bank and he goes to a tab called Elon's Maps, which immediately is a little bit of a red flag because I don't know why you would refer to yourself in third person, but okay, he does that. Elon Musk didn't play Path of Exile 1. In Path of Exile 2, maps are actually called waystones. And he never actually refers to them as maps, he calls them...
Play another round here. This is a hard level. Waystone.
So it's just kind of weird that he's, again, called his tab Elon's Maps. So almost like someone who's a Path of Exile 1 veteran, is kind of making that tab and be like, Elon, there's a tab there called Elon's Maps. Grab your map out there. I've rolled them all for you. They're nice and easy.
The funniest part about this controversy is that it ended up doing more damage to his reputation than his Roman salute. It takes a special kind of narcissism to be on track to be the world's first trillionaire, meddling in governments all over the world, and still be insecure enough to lie about being good at video games. Soon he will cry, "It's just a joke, obviously," and all his fanboys will say, "Haha, he was just trolling the mad gamers, cause that's how smart he is." At the same time, Elon was about to lose a massive chunk of his conservative fan base when he decided to support H-1B visas, which is a US non-immigrant visa that allows employers to temporarily employ foreign workers in specialty occupations. Even though he was claiming to be America first, he was looking for foreign labor. But he claimed that this visa allows the greatest talent in the world to work in the US. Now, to clarify, H-1B visas aren't necessarily a bad thing. They often give opportunities to engineers and other specialized workers who can't make enough money in their home countries. What makes them bad is that oligarchs have used them since the 90s for borderline slave labor, as termination would result in the employee being sent back to their home overseas. Tech companies all over the Western world love these work visas because they can control a low-paid workforce, constantly threatening them with the possibility of deportation. When people on both sides of the aisle questioned why he would support these visas, Elon responded with an unhinged rant calling out the working class. "The reason I'm in America along with so many critical people who built SpaceX, Tesla, and hundreds of other companies that made America strong is because of H-1B. Take a big step back and F yourself in the face. I will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot possibly comprehend. The post was not only a cringeworthy reference to Tropic Thunder, but it also proved to a lot of people that Elon Musk was just like every other tech billionaire wishing to exploit policy. And all of this has resulted in Elon Musk's reputation absolutely imploding. Even friends of Joe Rogan refuse to pretend to like the guy anymore.
His video game lying.
That's
psychotic.
really weird, yeah. Video game lying.
Weird.
Okay,
dude.
video game lying.
Bro, you can't video game lie. If you find out someone's video game lying, you go, why?
But there's a threshold into adulthood if you're video game lying. It's like, bro.
Puberty is where you gotta. Yeah. Once you can't video game lie.
Thank you.
Yeah, so people are mad at this gesture. All this gesture means is Heil Hitler.
There's some people in this bucket that are over 200 years old. So we'll get to the bottom of that, though.
He's exactly right.
Yeah,
and it is a disgusting disgrace what this show has become. There's 200-year-old men in that bucket, and Elon's going to sniff them out like a truffle pig.
Right.
This is the grossest and cringiest anyone has ever seen in a very long time. And also, he's a guy that believes that we have to go to Mars and merge with AI and no longer be humans. And no one seems to question that. I don't think populism, as has been described, includes merging with machines and going to Mars. You're not, this isn't a movie where the movie ends with Elon putting you on his spaceship and going to Mars. You're not going to Mars. I'm sorry about that. These people are also the elites, which you people talk about the elites, and I've talked about it myself. Because the elites are completely out of touch, but these elites are also out of touch. It's also out of touch to think that the biggest issue is let's go to Mars. Go talk to a working family that can't put food on the table. See how many times they mention Mars. I don't know why it's happening, and I disagree with close friends of mine who think Elon Musk is the savior of this is Jesus. If Jesus came back, he'd be Elon Musk. He'd come through South Africa and design cars that don't need gas. And buy X. The guy's a billionaire who wants to go to Mars, and normal people are going, what the is this? I can't get a knee operation.
And things aren't looking great on the X front either. Even though he promised free speech, he's continuing to ban words and suspend accounts that disagree with him. Plus, with a loss of faith, Tesla stock has plummeted by 50%. He's made himself the face of his companies, and now they will fall with his shortcomings. But there are a lot of questions up in the air about why Elon would do any of this at all. Just 5 years ago, Musk was in a pretty good place. He didn't really have any enemies, and almost every argument he made was met with almost universal approval. It's only lately that people seem to have lost faith in who he is and what he represents. And that's because, ironically, he is no longer in control of his narrative. Because of his own free speech efforts, people see through the marketing campaign that he tried to push for the past 2 decades. Elon Musk is a greater marketer than anything, a PR expert. SpaceX is without a doubt an incredible company, producing amazing innovations and advancing our space exploration to heights that were previously unimaginable. But there is no doubt that this company has been kept alive with billions of your tax dollars, and you never even voted for him. He doesn't ever need to deliver on his promise of colonizing Mars to receive more funding. He just needs you to think that he is getting closer, or he needs you to think that colonizing Mars is even important in the first place. Actually, wait. He doesn't need you. He just needs a few members of the US government to approve his missions and send billions of dollars to his company. Luckily, he is besties with the president, and he is currently cozied up at the White House making friends who can fund his space explorations long after Trump leaves office. Elon Musk is a business genius in a way that most people don't give him credit for. He convinces everyone that his plans are so much larger than life that people couldn't help but give him endless amounts of cash to just see what he can do. And to his credit, he helped make environmental awareness fashionable. He inspired people to think about what life could be like on other planets, and he made rockets that are reusable and can land on their own, something nobody in the 20th century thought would be possible for another 100 years. But he is a businessman, and lately, he's beginning to prove that corporate leaders are all the same. He bends the truth for his own aims, silences critics in any way he can to save his image, and appears to have graduated to the stage that most wealthy people do, using a vast fortune to make his way into the center of power. At this point, nobody knows who Elon Musk really is or what his true motives seem to be, and it's beginning to look like that might be what he wanted all along.